story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Norway Chess 2014, being played from June 3rd through June 13th, 2014, with a great players, many of the top 10 in the world. It's going to be a great tournament. Wow, wow, wow. Look at this again. Here we are after 7 rounds. 4 players tied for first at 4. Right below them, a half a point behind, is 3.5. Grischuk and Augustine, who's playing a great tournament. 7 draws. And then just 1 point below the leaders, 4. Topolov, Aronian, Fiddler, and Geary. Amazing stuff. 4-way tie after 7 rounds. Wow, wow, wow. Hi folks, John Cordisco here. Round 7 of Norway Chess 2014, currently being played in Norway. Great lineup. I think it's got 8 out of the top 10 players in the world. Unfortunately, my buddy Carl Nakamura from the U.S. isn't in it, but this game's a great game. Between the current world champion from Norway, Magnus Carlsen, and Alexander Grischuk from Russia is black. Grischuk is, I think, number 4 in the world, number 3 in the world. He's come up a lot. He kind of snuck up on everybody. Anyway, it's going to be a Grunfeld. Let's get to it. We'll go through the first few moves. We've all seen the Grunfeld a lot. Those of you that are wondering about knight takes, it doesn't work, because after knight takes, e6, knight takes check, queen takes, knight f3. White's down to 2 pawns for a piece. About a 3-point advantage for white in that scenario. So those of you that are wondering about that free pawn, it's not so free. Bishop to f4, knight takes, pawn takes. I do want to say that it's not going to spoil the game, but this illustrates that Magnus Carlsen has a reputation for just grinding you and grinding you and grinding you, very much like Kramnik, but even more. He will play it down to bare kings. And I have to say that Grischuk showed in this game why he's number 3 in the world. I'm not going to tell you who wins, but I'll tell you it's a really tough game for Grischuk. c5, c takes, c takes, c takes. Now look at that unusual pawn formation. Now these are doubled, but they're center pawns, and they're controlling all of these squares. Not bad. Queen takes, e3, of course, you get the light squared bishop out so you can castle. Black castles, bishop, knight c6, and then white castles. I went through that a little fast, but they're pretty much normal standard moves. Both of their pawn structures are intact. Black's got an extra pawn on the queen side, and white's got a really nice center with his pawns. My computer shows it about a quarter of a pawn ahead for white. It's the same as even. Bishop to f5. Queen a4. That was also the computer move. Now, I have no doubt in my mind, we're on move 13, that this is still theory. For those of you that are new to the game that know what theory means, it means these are moves that have been figured out a long time ago in the move orders that they go into. And these guys do this before a game. They'll go through a bunch of different openings. Because there's so much to remember, you can't remember everything. Unless you're Garry Kasparov, of course. Alexander Grischuk offers a trade of queens, and Magnus takes it. Even material. Both have the bishop pair. Tiny advantage for white. So let's see how the rook's going to go. Right, the only open file, that's right where white goes. And of course, black challenges it. Knight to d2. Now Magnus took back when a rook c8. He wants to get rid of the rooks for some reason. And Magnus says, okay, that's fine. Bishop takes. Now we have what I call a 6 minor piece ending. We've got all 4 bishops and 2 knights. in 12 pawns. Tough, tough, tough. And you're going to see the next few moves. Alexander Grischuk kind of puts himself into a bind. He should have went d5 here at the computer for white. Magnus goes bishop f3. Knight c6. He doesn't really care if the bishop takes and the b-pawn takes and it doubles it up. Bishop g3 suggested move by the computer. Magnus goes to c7. I'm not sure what squares he's trying to control. Maybe it's the d8 square, the knight to come back around to e6. King comes over. Knight b3. This is one of those positions where having the computer kind of critique the moves of the players is really worthless because there's so much play here. You got 4 bishops and 2 knights and 12 pawns. I mean, there's play everywhere. So you're not going to exactly follow what the computer says you should do. After knight to b3 by Magnus, Grischuk moves the king over. Now, whether he's trying to get the king in the middle of the board or the king on the queen side, it's hard to say at this point. Maybe later he's looking for the king to help support the extra pawn he has on the queen side. We'll have to see how it works out. Knight to c5. Magnus is going right down. That's a very aggressive move. e6. I think what he's doing, he's stopping the pawn from coming here, number one, and the bishop, but I think mostly the pawn, to be honest with you. Bishop takes, pawn takes, bishop b8, goes after the pawn a6. Now look at that poor bishop for black on c8, the light squared bishop. That thing is just hemmed in. He's basically worthless right now. I mean, look at the isolated pawns. They're all on light squares. Black's light squared bishop can't get out. He can't move because of the knight for here and here. I mean, it's just, this is tough. And Grischuk has to suck this up. Bishop d6. I mean, what is black going to do here? f6? You know, king can't move. Where's the king going to go to? King to f1. Magnus comes up with a king. Bishop. King e2. Gets the bishop out a little bit. At least threaten the knight. Knight moves to a4. He doesn't want to give it up. Bishop d8. Knight. Bishop. I mean, you know, he's basically, he's tied. He's tied down. He's tied up here. Knight to e4. King to d7. Now, this is a calculation on Grischuk's part because you can see later this knight can come here, and we'll see how that works out. Bishop moves. Bishop f6. He wants to trade dark squared bishops, white. If black trades his dark square bishop at this point, he's doomed. That's the only play he has right now. So he moves the bishop. Then the knight goes to g5, attacking both of these pawns. Now this is a calculation that Grischuk had to make. Now we're on move 33, and I remember watching the game live on NorwayChess.com. And Grischuk was getting down to a couple of minutes. And towards the end, he had a few seconds left. I don't think he had 2 minutes left on move 33 here. And he's playing very, very well considering the pressure and the time restraint. c5. Great move. Great move by Grischuk. I don't think any of us could have found that. He lets him take the pawn. Then he gets the bishop out. It was worth the sacrifice of a pawn to get the bishop out. White goes g4. Bishop. a3. Bishop checks. King to d1. I mean, now the bishops are going to be here. King gets here or here. This bishop comes over. There's a lot of play now for black, giving up that pawn. Bishop d5. Knight to g5, threatening the f7 pawn. C takes. Bishop takes. Bishop takes. E takes. Now, he doesn't mind losing that dark squared bishop now, black, because of the fact that his light squared bishop is out, and he doesn't really need him that badly anymore. The only piece he had that was worth anything was the dark squared bishop. f6, chase the knight. Knight goes to h7. Now, white has to be careful here because black's king can come in here and trap this knight. King e7, here he comes. G5. That way the knight escapes. If the pawn goes to here, the knight can swing over and he's okay. And they're both on dark squares, so they can't be harassed by the bishop. F takes. King to d2. He can let that pawn sit. He's not worried about it. He can come back and get him anytime. E5. King e3 by Magnus. Now I'm looking at the computer off screen here. It's less than a point advantage for white. Even though black's up what I call a minor exchange, this is really tough for Grischuk. King to e6. Knight checks. Forcing the king up. Pawn takes. King takes. Knight takes check. Now white's still up a pawn. And this is Magnus Carlsen now. He's not gonna ask for a draw or even take a draw offer. He's gonna play this down the bare kings if he has to. King to f6. King d4. He moves the bishop. And then Magnus moves the knight. On a dark square if you notice as well. King to f5. King to d3. Or excuse me, knight to d3. King to g4. King e3. These are tough calculations. It's one of those weird things in chess, an oxymoron in chess, that the least amount of pieces there are on the board, the more complicated it is. It's just the way it is. And psychologically right now, it's tough for Grischuk because he's gone through, we're talking about 4 or 5 hours now, a very unpleasant play. Just torturous. Just trying to survive. And that takes a lot out of you, mentally and physically. King to h3. Knight to c5, hitting the pawn. Pawn moves. f3. g4. Pawn takes. King takes. Now we're getting down the bare part of this. Still, white's up a pawn. Knight to b3, hitting the pawn again. Pawn moves. Knight goes to c5. And bishop goes there to protect the pawn. King to f2. King goes to h3. And now he goes to g1. Now if you notice, white's pawn here is on a dark square. This bishop can't touch it. And you can go back and forth with the king all you want. It's not going to matter. Bishop. Knight moves again. King. Knight. Bishop. Knight. King to g4. And now that bishop is tied to that pawn. Knight to d1. Bishop. Knight f2 check. Knight can always come back because the pawn on e3 cannot be captured, at least not by the bishop. King f3. h4. Here goes the pawn. Bishop e8, stopping the pawn from advancing. Knight to d1. King to g3. Knight. King takes. King f2. This is dead drawn, of course. But Magnus continues to play it out. Magnus goes king to e3. Grischuk king to f5. King up. King over. King to c5. King to e7. There's no way either of these guys can win. Takes. Bishop takes. King over. Bishop to e8. a4. And Grischuk takes. And it's an automatic draw. I thought that was a great game by both players. I thought that Magnus had tremendous pressure on Grischuk for a long time. And Grischuk suffered through it and came out on the other side. That's hard to do against anybody, but it's damn near impossible to do against Magnus. And Alexander Grischuk, great player. You can see why now he's moved up in the top 4 in the world. Manages to survive an onslaught from Magnus in a very, very unpleasant position. So hats off to both players, but especially Grischuk. I'll give him this one. Tip of the hat to you, Mr. Grischuk. Anyway, folks, that's the game from round 7. There was another game from round 7 where it was a 113 move game where it was Karyakin against Giri. And Geary at the very end miscued and blew it. And there's no way I was going to go through a whole 113 move game. So you could probably find that game on ChessBase or find it on the internet if you wanted to look at it. Anyway, folks, I want you all to remember, if you think chess is just a game,